Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. On behalf of the organizers, I would like to welcome you to the webinar, Riding Ups and Downs, Hong Kong-Indonesian Partnership. First off, a bit of self-introduction. My name is Laura Kasensen, your host for today. The webinar today is organized by the Commerce and Economic Development Bureau of the Hong Kong SAR government and the Indonesian Consulate General in Hong Kong. It is our privilege to have the following parties co-organizing as well as supporting our event, and they include the Office of the Commissioner of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the PRC in the Hong Kong SAR, the Hong Kong Economic and Trade Office in Jakarta, the Hong Kong Trade Development Council, the Chinese General Chamber of Commerce in Hong Kong, the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce in Hong Kong. Before we get started, I would like to take a couple of minutes to remind our participants of the following points. Firstly, the webinar will be conducted in English and last for around 2 hours. The microphones and videos for our audiences will be muted at all times. If you wish to ask questions, please submit your question together with your email address by utilizing the Q&A function. Although you may submit your question anytime during the webinar, they will only be answered during the Q&A session. We may not be able to address all questions during the Q&A session. Unanswered questions will be replied individually via email after the webinar. The chat function will be disabled throughout the webinar. Now, I would like to introduce the agenda for today. We will start our webinar with the welcome and opening session with welcome speech by Mrs. Carrie Lam, the Chief Executive of the Hong Kong SAR. This will then be followed by remarks by Mr. Mahendra Siregar, Vice Minister for Foreign Affairs of Indonesia, Mr. Xie Feng, the Commissioner of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the PRC in the Hong Kong SAR, and Mr. Xiao Qian, the Chinese Ambassador to Indonesia. After the opening session, Mr. Edward Yao, the Secretary for Commerce and Economic Development of the Hong Kong SAR government, will give his introductory remarks for the webinar today. Next, we will have a panel discussion titled Discovering New Partnership Opportunities. Today, we're delighted to have leading figures from both Hong Kong and Indonesia across different industries in our panel. After the panel discussion, we will focus on Indonesian economic and trade cooperation zones. And we are honored today to have representatives from the China-Indonesia Economic and Trade Cooperation Zone and the CFLD International Karawang New Industry City. We will then open the floor to the audiences for Q&A. At the end, we will invite Secretary Yao and Mr. Ricky Suhenda, the Consul General of Indonesia in Hong Kong, to deliver the closing remarks. And now, we will invite Mrs. Carrie Lam, the Chief Executive of the Hong Kong SAR, to address our audiences. The Chief Executive, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Vice Minister Siregar, Commissioner Xie, Ambassador Siu, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It gives me really great pleasure to welcome you to today's webinar, jointly organized by the Indonesian and Hong Kong SAR governments. May I first take the opportunity to congratulate the Republic of Indonesia on the 75th anniversary of its independence. As COVID-19 continues to afflict Asia and the world at large, I am heartened by your participation at today's webinar. It is a palpable testimony to the long-standing friendship between Hong Kong and Indonesia and our mutual determination to build on our strong ties and wide-ranging cooperation. For several months, Hong Kong was relatively virus-free. Unfortunately, we have been battling another viral wave since early July. In response, we have put in place our strictest containment measures to date. This includes tougher social distancing measures, enhanced testing, and expanded treatment and quarantine facilities. We are also encouraged by and deeply grateful for the Central People's Government support, with which we will soon launch an expanded community testing scheme to help us identify infected persons in a community as early as possible, particularly amongst those who are asymptomatic. While both the Hong Kong and Indonesian governments are sparing no effort to combat the epidemic, it would be important for economic partners to support each other to enhance our resilience and to join hands to ride over the storm. Such partnership and mutual support are at the center of the Belt and Road Initiative, which continues to make progress despite COVID-19. As President Xi Jinping pointed out in his message to the high-level video conference on Belt and Road International Cooperation held in June, be it in taming the virus or in achieving economic recovery, we cannot succeed without solidarity, cooperation, and multilateralism. The right approach to tackling global crisis and realizing long-term development is through greater connectivity, openness, and inclusiveness. And this is where Belt and Road International Cooperation can make a big difference. Hong Kong is keen to strengthen our cooperation with Indonesia, one of Asia's and the world's most promising economies. Despite the challenging global trade environment last year, our bilateral trade still recorded positive growth. Hong Kong last year was also third in the source of foreign direct investment to Indonesia, amounting to nearly $3 billion, an encouraging 10% of Indonesia's total FDI for the year. People-to-people bonds are no less reassuring, with more than 170,000 Indonesians in Hong Kong supporting our families and actively contributing to our cultural diversity. Our two economies last month marked a bilateral relations milestone when the part relating to Indonesia in the Free Trade Agreement and Invest Agreement between ASEAN and Hong Kong came into force. In a time of unparalleled uncertainty, such agreements underline our unwavering commitment to pursuing partnership possibilities whenever they may emerge. Now, looking ahead, after we have overcome COVID-19, I believe the digital economy and innovation and technology in general will bring fresh opportunities for Hong Kong and Indonesia business cooperation. Indeed, digital innovation has helped Hong Kong contain the spread of the virus, and in doing so, minimize community disruption. In June, the Hong Kong government launched a business promotion platform featuring applications for testing, contact tracing, e-health, e-learning, e-commerce, e-communications, and other smart innovations. These are open for sharing with our overseas partners, including those from Indonesia. During my visit to Jakarta in 2018, I enjoyed constructive meetings with President Jokowi, as well as major Indonesian business leaders. In these high-profile discussions, I detailed Hong Kong's deep pool of multicultural talent, embracing law, accounting, financial services, urban planning, engineering, and much more. We have professionals who are experienced in working with East and West, and professionals with the expertise to help plan and operate such major development projects as Indonesia's upcoming capital relocation. The economic and trade cooperation zones set up with cooperation between the mainland and Indonesia also offer plentiful prospects for collaboration. These zones, built for enterprises ranging from processing and manufacturing to trade and logistics, science, technology, and more, offer ideal entry points for Hong Kong companies looking to establish a presence in Indonesia. These zones can also serve as springboards for Hong Kong companies to go global alongside our mainland and Indonesian counterparts. I know the operators of two of Indonesia's economic and trade cooperation zones will deliver a presentation later today, giving our business sector a much-anticipated introduction to all that these industrial parks can offer. Let me add that the 5th Belt and Road Summit will be held on November 30th in Hong Kong. By now, this summit has become the world's largest annual Belt and Road gathering, featuring commerce, investment, and business matching opportunities for Hong Kong, mainland, and overseas companies. This year's summit will take place under the theme of a business vision for a sustainable and inclusive future. I invite our Indonesian friends to join us for this year's summit and to explore the Belt and Road future together. Finally, allow me to thank the Consulate General of the Republic of Indonesia in Hong Kong for joining us in organizing today's webinar. In addition, my thanks to the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce in Hong Kong, the Hong Kong Trade Development Council, and the Chinese General Chamber of Commerce being our co-organizers. Last but not the least, my thanks to the Ministry of Commerce, our embassy in Indonesia, and the Office of the Commissioner of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Hong Kong for their vital support. Ladies and gentlemen, the pandemic is the great global challenge of our time, but we will prevail. So too will the irreplaceable bonds that exist between the peoples and the businesses of Hong Kong and Indonesia. I wish you all the best of business and health in the coming year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief Executive. May I now invite Mr. Mahendra Siregar, Vice Minister for Foreign Affairs of Indonesia, to deliver his remarks, please. Vice Minister, the floor is all yours.
Thank you very much, Chief Executive Lam, Commissioner Xi, Ambassador Shokan, Honorable Secretary Yol, Consul General Sukendar, distinguished speakers, ladies and gentlemen, and of course, co-organizers of this webinar. A very good afternoon to everyone. I am delighted to be part of this very important webinar that will discuss the future of Indonesia and Hong Kong partnership. And in particular, while we are addressing the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic, we need to keep our focus on the prospect and opportunities of Indonesia-Hong Kong partnership and beyond. Our sincere appreciation to the Hong Kong and Belt and Road Commissioner Office and the Consulate General of Indonesia in Hong Kong to make this potential opportunity possible despite the current circumstances. I'm also to hear that around 500 participants from Hong Kong and Indonesia have joined this webinar. Hong Kong is an economic partner for Indonesia for many years. Over the last 5 years, FDI from Hong Kong is always in the top 3. And for the first half of 2020, the Hong Kong FDI to Indonesia has reached close to $2 billion, which again makes Hong Kong the third largest investor for Indonesia. Hong Kong is one of Indonesia's important trading partners. Total trade in 2019 reached close to $6 billion, up almost 10% from the previous year. This first 6 months, we have witnessed close to $3 billion exports and imports value. It's obviously, we can see the room for improvement is very huge. And Hong Kong, as a leading international financial and important economic hub in the Asia Pacific, plays certainly a strategic position for economic cooperation between Indonesia and Hong Kong, and will also relate to our cooperation with the People's Republic of China. For the benefit of our Hong Kong participants, I would like to update what is the Indonesian government been doing in addressing the impact of the COVID-19. The government has been able to allocate 6.5% of the GDP to stimulate the economy after the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. This can continue until the 2022 because the government and the parliament have agreed that the government is provided bigger fiscal space to address the pandemic impact. As a result, we would be able to provide incentive to the business, including the small, medium enterprises, and also provide social expenditure and subsidy for almost 20 million smallholders and families. We also have set up the Economic Committee and mitigation of the COVID-19 pandemic. And despite the current challenges, the government will continue also focusing on the fiscal sustainability while promoting investment in infrastructure. Unlike what we endured 20 years ago during the Asian monetary crisis, when Indonesia had to abandon the infrastructure investment because of the strict fiscal limits by the various institutions back then. This time, we will double down the infrastructure investment with the current budget, as well as the possibilities to attract partnerships from various countries and institutions. In addition to that, the government, working closely with the business sector, continue promoting the value-add industries to be developed in Indonesia. There are many success stories on this field, including several of that, including or involving the Chinese companies ranging from natural resources, manufacturing, to services. This showcases that strong collaboration, partnership, and understanding would improve the possibility of Indonesia and partners to get access into high value-added industries that would be very much necessary for a country as large as Indonesia and as rich in natural resources in our case. A similar collaboration has been taking place very strongly between Indonesia and many countries in addressing the COVID-19 situation, including the development and testing of the vaccine research. We have been able to promote collaboration with several countries and partners, including two of them with the companies based in People's Republic of China, and among others, including the shareholder based in Hong Kong. So learning from this experience is very clear. While we need, of course, to improve the capacity, the ability to address the COVID-19, our long-term strategic vision in developing common interests, in developing our common values should be continued the base of our relationship. On that note, I would like to suggest 3 points for both sides to focus on the future relationships. First, we need to intensify our trade cooperation. With the ASEAN-Hong Kong Free Trade Area entry into force, this is a great opportunity for Indonesia and Hong Kong to focus many other sectors that would be benefited from both sides. Indonesia is ready to supply Hong Kong with high-quality export commodities with various types of products, ranging from resources, chemicals, manufacturing products, electrical equipment, and many others. The second one, we need to explore new sectors and take benefit from the untapped opportunities through participation from various private companies of Indonesia, Hong Kong, and China. On this note, we have to particularly focus on the development of collaboration in the pharmaceutical, renewable energy, services, creative industries, vocational training, as well as many other Industry 4.0. Third, Indonesia will continue offer more incentives for foreign investors. And on that, we hope that our partnership between Indonesia and Hong Kong would be very much look at that opportunity and continue becoming not only the top 3, but even larger investor in our country. I invite all business sectors from Hong Kong to enter Indonesia and build economic, trade, investment relations together. This is certainly a challenging time, but at the same time, this is also a great opportunity for us to elaborate further and to boost confidence for much stronger relations in the future. I hope this afternoon discussion will contribute positively to stronger cooperation between Indonesia and Hong Kong. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vice Minister. May I now invite Mr. Xie Feng, the Commissioner of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the PRC in the Hong Kong SAR, to address our audiences. Commissioner Xie, the floor is yours.
Thank you. The Honorable Chief Executive Carrie Lam, the Honorable Vice Minister Mahendra, Ambassador Xiao Qian, distinguished guests, friends. It is a great pleasure to meet friends old and new from both Hong Kong and Indonesia. Seeing you has brought back all my fond memories of the 3 years in Jakarta, during which I worked closely with Indonesian friends to synergize the development strategies of our 2 countries and facilitate Belt and Road cooperation. Since I took office in Hong Kong in 2017, I have had the honor to witness and support the efforts by the Hong Kong SAR under the leadership of Mrs. Carrie Lam to join the BRI, especially to boost mutually beneficial cooperation with Indonesia and ASEAN as a whole. China and ASEAN are new engines of global growth. As we speak, the COVID-19 pandemic is still raging on, wreaking havoc on global production and demand and leaving the world economy reeling. Still, Asian countries, especially China and ASEAN nations, have defied the odds and become rare bright spots amid the gloom. In particular, the economic cooperation between China and ASEAN has gathered momentum, with our trade growing 5.6% in the first half of this year, making ASEAN China's top trading partner, surpassing both the EU and the US. Win-win cooperation alone is the right way forward. What China and ASEAN have achieved proves that it is all the more important in challenging times to respect each other's core interests and major concerns and look out for one another. And that is all the more important amid rising economic headwinds to reject protectionism and unilateralism, stay open and seek win-win results, and jointly keep the industrial and supply chains stable and secure. Right now, China is fostering at a faster pace a new development pattern, with the domestic cycle as the mainstay and the domestic and international cycles mutually reinforcing each other. We are also firmly committed to high-level opening up. All these will unlock tremendous opportunities for Hong Kong, ASEAN, and the entire world. Ladies and gentlemen, the national security law will bolster the role of Hong Kong in the national development. The implementation of the law has ushered in a new era of greater success of one country, two systems, and given fresh impetus to Hong Kong's participation in the BRI and integration into the overall development of the country. By effectively closing major loopholes in national security, the law has reinforced the one country foundation and opened up new horizons for two systems. Guarded by the law, which serves as a security door and a breakwater, Hong Kong is enabled to focus on boosting economy, improving people's livelihood, integrating itself more deeply into the national development, and creating for international visitors including those from Indonesia, a more secure, stable, and predictable environment, with a sounder legal system and brighter prospects for cooperation. The strong support from the motherland has given Hong Kong the utmost confidence to embark on a new journey. As the first country to emerge out of the pandemic, China is promoting a new round of reform and opening up. In the face of the grave challenges posed by COVID-19 and sanctions imposed on Hong Kong by some countries out of hegemonic thinking, the central government and 1.4 billion Chinese people always have Hong Kong's back. The People's Bank of China, the Banking and Insurance Regulatory Commission, and the Securities Regulatory Commission have endorsed Hong Kong as an international financial center and will secure its economic and financial stability. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the National Development and Reform Commission, and the Ministry of Commerce firmly support Hong Kong in remaining a separate customs territory and fully engaging in the BRI. At the same time, the high-quality development of the BRI, the unfolding of the GBA, and the return of Hong Kong concept stocks will all open up new space for Hong Kong to renew its economic miracle. Ladies and gentlemen, one country, two systems is Hong Kong's greatest strength in participating in the BRI. Enjoying both the institutional benefits of one country, two systems and unique advantages as a strategically located first mover in opening up and cooperation, and a financial and professional service hub, Hong Kong serves as a promoter, facilitator, and super connector in the BRI. The signing of the Free Trade Agreement and the Investment Agreement has brought Hong Kong ASEAN cooperation onto the fast track and made Hong Kong a crucial link in BRI cooperation between China and ASEAN. On July the 4th, 3 days after the national security law took effect, the parts relating to Indonesia under the two agreements entered into force. A vote of confidence in Hong Kong cast by the Indonesian government and business community, which will start a new chapter in mutually beneficial cooperation between Hong Kong and Indonesia. The central government has attached great importance to the pioneering initiative put forward by the Hong Kong SAR government to encourage Hong Kong business to join the economic and trade cooperation zones along the Belt and Road. The central leadership and the State Council have instructed the competent authorities, including the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Ministry of Commerce, and the Commissioner's Office, to give full support. The Indonesian government and Chamber of Commerce in Hong Kong, Mrs. Carrie Lam, the relevant government departments and local chambers of commerce in Hong Kong SAR, Ambassador Xiao Qian and China's embassy in Indonesia have all worked closely together on this. The event today makes a special arrangement for two China-Indonesian economic and trade cooperation zones to explore partnerships with Hong Kong businesses. And I encourage all of you to seize the opportunity and aim at early harvest. The Commissioner's Office is committed to supporting the Hong Kong SAR in expanding exchanges and cooperation with the rest of the world. Since we initiated the Hong Kong plus Mainland plus Belt and Road countries tripartite cooperation mechanism in 2017, we have co-hosted with the Hong Kong SAR government, local businesses, and the consulates general and the chambers of commerce of relevant countries in Hong Kong, events featuring Indonesia, Thailand, Myanmar, and Malaysia, respectively. And the ambassadors of China to these countries, namely Ambassador Xiao Qian, Ambassador Lu Jian, Ambassador Hong Liang, and Ambassador Bai Tian, attended during VIP visits to Hong Kong. We have also actively supported the Hong Kong SAR government in setting up economic and trade offices overseas and facilitated visits by Hong Kong SAR officials and businesses to countries along the Belt and Road. Going forward, the Commissioner's Office will continue to mobilize diplomatic resources and combine the priorities of the countries and the strengths of the Hong Kong SAR so as to help Hong Kong fully engage in the BRI and better integrate itself into the overall development of the country. In closing, let's hope Hong Kong will make greater contribution to and renew its glory in BRI cooperation, and that the tripartite cooperation between the mainland, Hong Kong, and Indonesia, and ASEAN as a whole will yield more fruits. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Xie. May I now invite Mr. Xiao Qian, the Chinese ambassador to Indonesia, to deliver his speech, please. Ambassador Xiao, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Your Honorable Chief Executive, Mrs. Carrie Lam, Your Excellency, Vice Minister Mahendra Sringar, Commissioner Xie Feng, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is my great pleasure to be part of the event today, and I wish it a great success. China and Indonesia are good neighbors just across the sea. This year marks the 70th anniversary of our diplomatic ties. Under the leadership of President Xi Jinping and President Joko Widodo, our two countries have been synergizing China's Belt and Road Initiative BRI and Indonesia's Global Maritime Fulcrum Strategy. Exchanges and cooperation in various fields are deepening and expanding, and our comprehensive strategic partnership extending. The BRI flagship project, Jakarta-Bandung High-Speed Railway, is making day-to-day progress, and cooperation on regional comprehensive economic corridors is well underway. And China remains, for many years, the biggest trading partner of Indonesia. In the first half of this year, withstanding the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, our bilateral trade reached $35.5 billion, almost leveled with the same time period of last year. And China's investment to Indonesia grew to $2.4 billion against a bleak global backdrop, making 1/6 of total FDI in Indonesia. And today, more than 1,000 Chinese companies have invested in Indonesia's transportation, telecommunication, oil and gas, power plants, mineral processing, digital economy, etc. And economic and trade cooperation zone is becoming modus operandi, a very important and efficient mode of cooperation. Hong Kong and Indonesia enjoy traditional friendship. Hong Kong has also long been the bridge and belt between China's mainland and Indonesia. Chief Executive Mrs. Carrie Lam's visit to Indonesia in 2018 and President Joko Widodo's visit to Hong Kong in 2017 fully demonstrated that both sides attach importance to their relations and cooperation. In the first half of this year, Hong Kong's investment to Indonesia reached $1.8 billion, so far as I have learned, making it the third biggest among sources of FDI in Indonesia. And about 180,000 Indonesians are living and working in Hong Kong, making contribution to Hong Kong's development and prosperity. The Chinese central government fully supports Hong Kong's role in China's overall national development and in building the BRI. Indonesia is where President Xi Jinping first launched the 21st century maritime Silk Road, and the momentum of Indonesia's fast development remains strong. The BRI cooperation between China and Indonesia enjoys great potential and bright prospects. And with the development of Guangdong, Hong Kong, Macau Greater Bay Area, and with the enaction of the national security law in Hong Kong is now endowed with new golden opportunities of making yet again remarkable achievements. Hong Kong enjoys unique advantages as a global financial, shipping, and trading center, among others, and competitive edge in legal affairs, management, R&D, digital economy, etc., among others. As Indonesia is upgrading its economy and China-Indonesia relationship is fast developing, I am confident that Hong Kong will seize the opportunities, fully explore its competitive edges, and further deepen its cooperation with Indonesia so as to promote the common development of the two sides and make even greater contribution to the China-Indonesia overall relationship. The Chinese embassy in Indonesia will continue to provide our utmost support and facilitation in this endeavor. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Xiao, for the remarks. Thank you all. And now may I invite Mr. Edward Yao, the Secretary for Commerce and Economic Development of the Hong Kong SAR government, to deliver his introductory remarks for our webinar today, please. The floor is yours, sir.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. Before I introduce my panelists, I would congratulate all the participants of this webinar meeting. Well, your participation already made this occasion a success, because I think we are making a record. Almost 1,000 participants sort of take part in this bilateral meeting. So in a way, distance does not keep us apart, nor COVID-19. I think in the coming session, we'll certainly be looking into the business sort of community's forecast into the future, particularly in Indonesia-Hong Kong relations. But we all know that we don't have any crystal ball. But if the last 7 to 8 months of difficult time when we fight against the battle of COVID-19 is a reference point, perhaps there are some lessons to be learned. So let me focus on an economic backdrop, taking the experience of how we have been fighting COVID-19. Now, like our strategy, suppress and lift, definitely there are areas that would expose our mutual community to a lot of risks, which are areas that we need to avoid or suppress. But at the same time, I think despite all these difficulties, there must be sort of a silver lining, which gives us the opportunity. So let me elaborate. I think if the last few months' experience is anything to go by, I think there are 3 important messages that we are getting, I think, globally as well as individually as an economy. The first one would be that our common enemy in this difficult situation is the virus and not each other. While different countries would be having different strategy in coping with the situation, I think the common mission must be to contain and defeat COVID-19, or there would still be a very high price, both in terms of life and also economic recovery to pay for. Now, the second experience is that, well, in all economy, we are fighting a twin battle that while fighting the virus of COVID-19, we're also fighting against a very slippery path of economic recession. And I think nothing could be gained before we are able to contain the virus. And while we are containing the virus, we have to be very cautious of the economic crisis and how to take the economy with us so that we can sort of gain back the momentum in our economic recovery. So it's a twin battle that we are fighting. Now, the third element is that, well, it appears that the whole world would be on a united front because, well, while we all fight different battles within our terrain, but before the whole world is able to get on top of the virus, I don't think we are out of the sort of storm or out of the woods yet. So all these 3 points point to very important common sort of strategy. That is, that calls for international collaboration, because we are not talking about sort of fighting this battle alone. So while Hong Kong is tackling this problem, we are seeing our partners in our neighborhood or also around the globe fighting the same. And as we see it, well, the recently released economic data from the second quarter of 2020 speak for itself. While Hong Kong suffering the hardest hit in almost 2 decades, our GDP has been down by 9% in both Q1 and Q2. We are seeing our neighborhood, for instance, Singapore, down by 12%. Japan has just released its GDP reduction by almost 29%. And across the Pacific, the US, the Q2 figure was alarming, down by 32.9%. On the brighter side, we are seeing ASEAN as a whole, and also Indonesia in particular, in fact, having still a moderate sort of a recession. And in the mainland of China, exceptionally, they have gained a positive 3.2% growth. Now, against this backdrop, we are seeing that there are some differences in different economies in coping with the situation. But one thing is common that, well, we must tackle both the COVID-19 and economic recession at the same time. In fact, that calls for the early preparation among all economies to work together in regaining the momentum as we sort of try to walk out from the storm. Now, when we look at the opportunity side, I think Hong Kong, Indonesia, in fact, has demonstrated great opportunity, even we are suffering from this very important impact from the pandemic. The first and foremost opportunity, I think, is highlighted by all the preceding speakers, is the strong sort of leadership and determination by the two economies and our respective sort of leaders in reinforcing this relationship. We recall that, well, President Xi, in launching the Maritime Silk Road Initiative, had this maiden speech on Belt and Road announced in Jakarta back in 2013. And I've seen personally that, well, leaders of both Hong Kong and also head of state of Indonesia had a mutual visit during the recent years. I remember receiving your president here in Hong Kong back in 2017, and then I accompanied the chief executive in visiting Jakarta in 2018. In all these discussions, there were very candid, close sort of conversation and dialogue in sort of reinforcing this relationship. Now, this is also reinforced by the institutional arrangement where the Free Trade Agreement and Investment Promotion and Protection Agreement are now not just signed, but also come into force, and in the case of Indonesia, earlier this month. But I think a much bigger opportunity lies ahead of us is the vast opportunity, not just between Hong Kong economy and the Indonesian economy, but also the vast economic hinterland in our neighborhood. In your case, it's the entire ASEAN sort of a community. In our case, it's the immediate neighborhood of the Greater Bay Area. I think all these opens up vast opportunity, which is a very important backdrop for the succeeding discussion on our mutual relations. Last but not the least, I would like to echo Vice Minister Mahendra's 3-point suggestions. Not only do I fully agree with the need to intensify the trade relations, explore new sectors, and also creating more incentive for both sides, I would like to add the 4th point, which is the point I made, that, well, we should be the gateway to our respective hinterland. And I think together, we should be providing this very important platform. And I think today's seminar is just the beginning of this new era. So with these remarks, I look forward to your questions and also discussion, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Secretary Yao, for the remarks. Now let's turn to the panel discussion session. I would like to first introduce the moderator for today, Mr. Dennis Ip, the Commissioner for Belt and Road of the HKSAR government. Besides, we're honored to have 4 panelists from Hong Kong and 3 panelists from Indonesia. They are all top industry leaders with expertise on a diverse range of areas and business experience in Hong Kong, Indonesia, and beyond. Commissioner Yip and our expert panelists will share their insights under the theme of Discovering New Partnership Opportunities. And now, I shall hand over the time to the moderator. Commissioner Yip, please.
Thank you, Laura. It's always tough to have a panel of 8, but 8 is the lucky number in Asia. So definitely will bring us good luck. First of all, we have listened to various speakers this morning. It's very surprising to me that actually the Hong Kong is number 3 in the foreign direct investment, which contributes $3 billion and 10% of the FDI investment in Indonesia. And this partnership is going to be very strong going forward with different initiatives. Now, with us on the panel, we actually have 8 people today to talk about, including myself. So let me introduce the rest of the crew for the panelists that we'll talk about. The first to introduce is actually sitting there is Dr. Peter Lam. Everybody knows Dr. Peter Lam is the chairman of the Hong Kong Trade Development Council, very famous in Hong Kong and have a lot of experience in both the private sector and also the public bodies. Also sitting next to Dr. Peter Lam is the president of the Hong Kong Law Society, Ms. Melissa Pang. Melissa is also very experienced in different commercial law, property law, and civil litigation. And also sitting next to Melissa is Mr. Lawrence Lee. And Lawrence is the chairman of the Hong Kong FSDC, Financial Services Development Council, who actually has a lot of different financial ideas that he will talk about a little bit later. Now, we have different speakers outside of Hong Kong. Within the Hong Kong speakers, we have Dr. Jonathan Choi, the chairman of the China's Chamber of Commerce, and he's actually in Guangzhou with us today. Welcome, Dr. Choi. We also have 3 speakers in Indonesia with the panel. The number 1 is Mrs. Shinta Kamdani, the vice chairwoman of Kadin, also the owner and CEO of Sintesa Group. Welcome, Shinta. And also with us is Mr. James Hartono, the president of Indonesia, chairman of commerce in Hong Kong, the chairman of Yesai Healthcare. James, welcome. And then finally, last but not least, is Mr. Teddy Otomo, the president of Bukalapak, who is a unicorn and also e-commerce company in Indonesia. Welcome, Teddy. So with us is actually the 7 speakers, with myself 8 speakers on the panel. And it's always difficult to, as I said, difficult to really balance the 8 speakers. But what I want to talk about today is actually 3 different topics. And probably different speakers will contribute to the 3 different topics. The number one topic actually Secretary Yao has talked about is the IT application in combating COVID-19. Actually, both Hong Kong side and Indonesia side have experienced sharing platform in e-learning, testing, dashboard, e-commerce, e-communications, etc. So we'll spend a little bit of time talking about that during the panel. The second topic that we want to talk about is the professional leadership in both Hong Kong and Indonesia. And sitting with us actually have a lot of professional experience in the law society, in the financial services, in the Chinese Chamber of Commerce, and also on the Indonesia side with different infrastructure group and different experience on professionalism, that we can do more business matching and partnership in the professional leadership. And finally, we'll go to the next topic on the economic trade cooperation zone. So let me introduce the first speaker, Dr. Peter Lam, Chairman of Hong Kong TDC.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. Thank you, Dennis. I'm delighted to join today's webinar. Today's discussions are especially meaningful because working together is the best way to overcome the huge challenges we are facing. Although the whole world is still fighting COVID-19 and global trade is threatened by protectionism, I think Southeast Asia and mainland China are in strong positions to recover because of cooperations between government, business, and people. As ties between Indonesia and Hong Kong grow stronger with recent trade, investment, and taxation agreements, I'm happy to say that we at the Hong Kong Trade Development Council have also played a small part in strengthening these ties over the years. Since we established a presence in Jakarta 10 years ago, we have been fostering ties between Indonesia and the Hong Kong business communities. This includes setting up the Indonesia's Hong Kong Business Association in 2014, holding our signature promotion InStyle Hong Kong in Jakarta in 2015, and organizing different business platform promotions, product expos, and missions in Indonesia to create business partnership. We also welcome Indonesia business leaders and companies to Hong Kong. Over 5,100 exporters, buyers, and delegates from Indonesia came to our trade fair and conference in 2019. Our Belt and Road Summit last September was especially honored to welcome some of the Indonesia's most respected business leaders to Hong Kong, including Dr. Mekar Riyadi of the Lippo Group. These are just some of the interactions that have helped us lay down the groundwork to take our partnership to the next level. I think there are several areas we can work together on. With global trade severely disrupted by COVID-19, we need to help manufacturers diversify the supply chain and market. Therefore, industrial park in economic and trade corporations play an important role. As the TDC, we have been helping to facilitating cooperation between manufacturers from Hong Kong, mainland Chinese investors and management companies, and industry park in Indonesia and other countries. Our goal is to help manufacturers diversify their productions while bringing benefits to local communities, thereby creating economic and industries activities. At the same time, the Hong Kong and Indonesia partnership can look at selling into their own market, plus exploring to the other market, such as mainland China. The TDC has set up a task force on industry parks under the TDC Belt and Road and the Greater Bay Areas Committee to spearhead activities such as providing up-to-date information on economic and trade cooperation zones, holding webinars to introduce different industry parks at investment regulations. And we greatly appreciate the support of the Council General, and providing companies with advisory and referral service in Hong Kong under the SME supporting program. Another areas we can cooperate is on to promoting investment flow between Indonesia and Hong Kong by linking Hong Kong investors and professional service providers, which investor and technical expertise from mainland China to invest in Indonesia. In fact, building three-way investment partnership has been a core area of our work. 2 years ago, we signed an MOU with the Indonesia Investment Corporation Board to BKPM to facilitate investments. In Hong Kong, our annual Belt and Road Summit and Asian Finance Forum bring together global investors, project owners, investment board, and leading professional service providers where the deal are sealed. In addition, our missions between Hong Kong and mainland China delegates to Indonesia and other Belt and Road countries to discuss investment opportunities. We have many projects to discuss, like the moving of capital city to the East Kalimantan. Although this project is currently put on hold due to COVID-19, please note that Hong Kong stands ready to support this mega project and long-term development plan. I hope to highlight the two areas. There are many other areas we can work closely on. Expanding our partnership with Trade in One, for example, during the 3 months we have been providing worldwide supplies and buy with more digital platforms to continue sourcing and selling. Indonesia has been one of our key partners, and I encourage more Indonesian companies to make full use of the platform. So I'm hoping when the travel ban are lifted, I hope to visit Indonesia myself to continue our dialogue in person. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lam. And the next panel speaker will be Dr. Jonathan Choi from Guangzhou. Dr. Choi.
Okay. Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jonathan Choi of Chinese General Chamber of Commerce. I, at the moment, is in Guangzhou. As everybody understands that, China and ASEAN is the key driver of the world economic growth at the moment. And among all the countries in ASEAN, I think Indonesia is the largest economy with a big population and rich in resources. As for the Chinese General Chamber of Commerce, we have been working closely with Indonesia in the past, I would say, 30 years. Because everybody understands that Indonesia has a very big overseas Chinese population. And the Chinese General Chamber of Commerce work well with the Chinese General Chamber in Indonesia, and also, of course, with Kadin, where we have an MOU signed already. And in 2015, we have brought 3,000 overseas Chinese businessmen to Indonesia, to Bali. And we have the World Chinese Entrepreneurial Conference there, and it was very successful. In 2017, when the President Jokowi came to Hong Kong, we also hold a business cooperation seminar together with the Indonesian Consul General in Hong Kong, and there are almost 500 businessmen joined talking about how we can invest and promote trade between Hong Kong and Indonesia. And as for the members of the Chinese General Chamber of Commerce, actually, we've been doing a lot of business in the past years. Traditionally, of course, our members invest in real estate in Jakarta and many cities. Other than that, we have factories. Manufacturing sector is one of the items that we have been doing very well. And other than that, we're in trading, buying and selling. Other than that, we have the mines and energy, oil and gas. And recently, when the purchasing power of Indonesia is coming up, the retail business is also one of the sectors that we are looking into. And some of our members already start the chain, sell the store in Jakarta at the moment. And besides that, since Indonesia is coming up quickly, I think financial services and professional services are also the new sector that we can come in. And last time when I went to Jakarta, we have some friends who are as a startup and then in the tech business, they would like to come to Hong Kong for fundraising, also for IPO. I think that these are the new areas that we can cover. As for the other than that, I just feel that Hong Kong cannot be alone. We need to work closely with China. And under the support of the Ministry of Commerce in Beijing, we have set up the China Mainland and Hong Kong Belt and Road Business and Professional Service Council so that we can work together with China for the investment and for trading in the future. I understand that Indonesia has a lot of opportunities. As Peter just mentioned, the Indonesian, the capital city is going to moving to Kalimantan in the future. And they are the intention for the factories in China for the relocation from mainland to ASEAN countries. And I think Indonesia is one of a good destination. Therefore, I just feel that we can work well in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Choi. And the first speaker is from the Hong Kong side is Ms. Melissa Pang, who is the president of the Hong Kong Law Society. Melissa, please.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's my honor to be here to take part. The year 2020 is an unprecedented year of turbulence. COVID-19, at the foremost, is a health emergency, but it's also an economic crisis. The world is facing recession, and governments are spending, exploring their fiscal tool to prompt economic recovery. And in terms of Hong Kong, we are always ranked at the top of the Index of Economic Freedom by the Heritage Foundation. The index shows that countries that are open to trade and investment are more prosperous than other countries. Free and open trade encourages competition, innovation, economies of scale, and a more efficient market. It appears that some countries now no longer champion this value, but China and Hong Kong are. Hong Kong has very strong ties with Indonesia, both in trade and investment. For the legal profession, we have very strong ties with our counterparts in Indonesia. Back in 2017, Law Society of Hong Kong signed an MOU with Peradi, the Indonesian Advocates Association. We organized joint seminar in Jakarta, introducing the Hong Kong legal system, the advantages of doing business in Hong Kong as a gateway to mainland. Also, we learned about the trade and investment law in Indonesia. Now I'll share with you some more information about the Hong Kong legal system and how Hong Kong lawyers can assist you. Hong Kong has a well-established common law system firmly based on the rule of law and judicial independence. Hong Kong has been consistently ranked as one of the least corrupt places in the world. According to the Rule of Law Index by the World Justice Project, Hong Kong ranked 16 out of 128 jurisdictions. And under the principle of one country, two systems, Hong Kong legal system is based on common law and supplemented by statute law. Being the only common law jurisdiction in China, Hong Kong has a sophisticated and independent system of lawmaking, legal protection, legal enforcement. Our judicial system is well regarded. And when we talk about the legal profession in Hong Kong, talent is most important. At the moment, we have more than 10,500 Hong Kong practicing solicitors. And when we talk about international, being an international legal hub, Hong Kong always adopted an open door policy. We have 1,600 foreign lawyers from 33 different jurisdictions. And so you can see Hong Kong can provide one-stop legal service to meet different clients' needs in terms of fundraising, finance, securities, international trade, cross-border transactions, intellectual property, maritime law, etc. And when we come to dispute resolution, Hong Kong is the neutral venue with world-class arbitration and mediation institution. And we are ranked as the top 5 preferred seat for arbitration globally. And in conclusion, I will say that with the combined advantage of one country, two systems, Hong Kong is a strong legal platform for deal making and dispute resolution. And with local and international legal talent, we are here to serve and support our clients.
Thank you very much, Melissa. And the fourth Hong Kong speaker is actually one of the most important industry segments from Hong Kong financial services. So Lawrence Lee is the chairman for the FSDC Financial Services Development Council. Lawrence, please.
Good afternoon. I'm Lawrence Lee. I'm the chairperson of the Financial Services Development Council. As I was coming to the webinar today, it occurred to me to ask a very simple question. How big is the Indonesian interest in our equity market already? How strong is the financial services tied between Hong Kong and Indonesia already? So I called my colleagues in the council as I was walking over to the webinar, and I got a very simple statistics. Of the top 15 business people in Indonesia, 5 already have listed companies in Hong Kong, totaling, incidentally, 8 listed companies. That says 3 things to me. First, Hong Kong is truly a regional financial center, not just of local enterprises and Chinese enterprises, but reaching out to the whole of Asia and beyond. Second, more importantly, there are 10 other of the top 15 business people in Indonesia that we should be marketing to. I hope I'm reaching some of you today now. Third, if one actually looks at the composition of the companies, it's very interesting. Those companies represent 2 things. One, we are a fundraising platform for Indonesian investments. But the opposite is also true. We are also an Indonesian platform for Indonesian business interest elsewhere in the world. Many of the listed companies that are listed here with Indonesian background are actually international arms of Indonesian business interests. So we go both ways. Going forward, I can think of at least 4 areas that Hong Kong can serve in terms of financial services even more. First is infrastructure financing. Indonesia is, of course, one of the fastest developing economies in the world. It has huge infrastructure financing needs. With the planned, if temporarily held up, plan of moving the capital in need of $33 billion US dollars in infrastructure investment, Hong Kong can have a big role. Second, Indonesia has made one of its 8 missions for the next 10 years to go green. There will need to be investments there, and Hong Kong can serve. 3, Fintech. Indonesia has already become the largest fintech and digital economy in Southeast Asia. Hong Kong can serve with, as Dr. Choi has already said, can serve with fundraising, exit, and other business needs of fintech companies. 4, renminbi. Renminbi already represent 10% of Indonesia's international trading. China, as we have heard from Commissioner Xie, is the top trading partner of Indonesia. Hong Kong has the biggest and deepest offshore renminbi pool in the world. Not only can we help with the financing and the transactions, we also provide risk management opportunities and needs that comes with that trading. I want to conclude by a wider remark about Hong Kong as an international financial center in these changing times. Much has already been said about COVID. Perhaps not as much has been said about the changing geopolitical environment of the world today. I'm afraid the changing geopolitical environment is going to get worse before it's going to get better. But as I like to say, when the going gets tough, the tough gets going. And Hong Kong as an international financial center is surely one of the toughest and most prosperous international financial center there is. With more challenges in the world, there will be more need for risk management. There will be more need to manage our money smartly, and Hong Kong is here to serve.
Thank you, Lawrence. Money is always very important in our life. Let's hear from our Indonesia side from the panelists. The first panelist from Indonesia is Mrs. Shinter Kamdani, and Shinter is the vice chairwoman for Kadin Group and also the CEO for Synthesia Group. Shinter, please.
Thank you, Denise. When Lawrence mentioned about fundraising, it's really music to our ears because this is something that definitely we're needing it. First of all, I would like to applaud the forum for in keeping the spirit of cooperation and strive to find opportunities to make businesses run despite these challenges of global pandemic and economic recessions. I sincerely hope that this forum, Indonesia and Hong Kong, can do more business together to assist each other, especially during this crisis. I think Indonesia and Hong Kong are two economies with high economic complementaries. As you know, Indonesia is very much mostly commodity-based economy, while Hong Kong is a service-based economy. And this can definitely create more mutually beneficial cooperation. By far, Indonesia has benefited from Hong Kong through continuous flow of FDI, and Hong Kong also has benefited from Indonesia by becoming our important trade and logistic hub in the region. Now, as you may all be aware, in the past 5 years, Indonesia has been consistently reforming our economy to be more open for foreign business, more efficient, more attractive, and competitive as global production base for value added goods. Externally, one of the concrete evidence was mentioned, which is the ASEAN-Hong Kong FTA, and also the ASEAN-Hong Kong Investment Agreement, which were ratified about a couple of months ago and utilized, that now can be utilized by Indonesian Hong Kong businesses as of 4th of July 2020. Internally, Indonesia is also striving to create a more structural reform on our domestic regulatory environment. I know there have been many challenges as far as regulatory, licensing, manpower, and so forth. So we are now, the government is now pushing through what we call the Omnibus Law. And with this, we are streamlining and simplifying all licenses and procedure. And this way, we are also improving the investment climate in Indonesia. In this midst of a reform agenda, I would like to focus on 3 aspects that I believe Hong Kong businesses can take opportunity. As you know, investment infrastructure will continue being a forefront with the Belt and Road Initiative and so forth. I think that will continue on. The second is on the human capital and industrial technology. You did talk about Fintech and so forth. This is also services industries, a very big part that can be active. And the third part is also area in terms of how we can really participate together in creating a network. And Indonesia offered at the moment 223 strategic infrastructure projects in the amount of about 284 billion US dollar. We are ready. This includes water supply facility, waste management, telecommunication infrastructure, industrial estate, airports, LRT, and many others. But I wanted to also focus on the service industry, especially on vocational education service. We also have, as you know, doing a lot of vocational training at the moment. So industrial worker skills scale up is something that we are continue focusing. But IT, especially, of course, is something that we are currently looking, especially during this time. We need to really upgrade and enhance our IT. So we also look at financial services, and I think we also in Hong Kong can also participate in more advanced manufacturing industry, primarily in investing on the industrial innovation and R&D. These are some of the many focus that we would like to see. But I also want to encourage that right now the government is ready to give incentive, tax allowance, tax holiday, and so forth. And we have special economic zones, and those are definitely facilities that can be taken opportunity by all the Hong Kong investors. Thank you.
Thank you, Shinta, and I'm sure that in the infrastructure projects, you have a lot of cooperation with the Hong Kong professional organizations, and hopefully with Lawrence and Melissa here, we can do more matching later on. The next speaker goes to James Hantono. James is the chairman of the Indonesia Chamber of Commerce in Hong Kong. James.
Thank you, Dennis. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, my name is James Hartono. I'm the president of Indonesia Chamber of Commerce in Hong Kong. I myself is a businessman. I came to Hong Kong and China 20 years ago, and I set up my own business here. And as it's very interesting as what Lawrence Lee mentioned, that my companies were also listed, is also listed in the Hong Kong Stock Exchange main board. So I'm a true witness that Hong Kong can be served as a financial platform to our friends from Indonesia to do business in China or to do trading. So we set up Indonesia Chamber of Commerce in Hong Kong about 3 years ago. We have members both in Hong Kong and in Indonesia. And we are all, most of us are all business practitioners. So we do businesses in China, we do businesses in Hong Kong, and we do businesses in Indonesia. And we are here to help and encourage Indonesian businessmen or business people, young people, to consider to expand the market, your businesses into Hong Kong and China market. And again, Hong Kong is definitely a good platform into China market. At the same time, we also would like to see more Hong Kongese to consider to invest in Indonesia, to explore the opportunity that Indonesia can provide. As many of my friends also has mentioned that Indonesia has been becoming more and more open. And I'm also very happy to witness these past few years that the relationship between the Hong Kong government and Indonesian government is probably at its peak, but I believe that it is going to be better. And Indonesia definitely would welcome more investments from Hong Kong. But I think more than that is also that there will be a lot of opportunities from China who is looking to invest in Indonesia, and they can use Hong Kong as a platform. One last thing that I would like to mention here is that I would like to see more from Financial Services Development Council, how to support Hong Kong businesses to invest in Indonesia, and organizing financial institutions, banks, to support the businesses, Hong Kong businesses, business people who are going into investing in Indonesia. That's all from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, James. The final Indonesian speaker is an entrepreneur, Mr. Teddy Otomo, who is the president of Bukalapak. Teddy?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and distinguished guests. My name is Teddy Utama. I am from Bukalapak. As you may or may not know, Bukalapak is one of the e-commerce in Indonesia. It's one of the unicorn. As an e-commerce, it's our business to connect buyer and seller. And our focus has been largely on bringing together the SME as well as our online merchant. So we have over 5 million online merchants today. The focus on SME allow us to empower the most impacted by the economic challenge induced by COVID-19. In addition to that, our business model, probably in contrast to some of the more conventional e-commerce, we actually focus on non-tier 1 cities. And we can achieve that because of our wide range infrastructure, where we are connected to, on top of our online merchant, we are also connected to over 5 million mom and pop kiosks across the archipelago of Indonesia. This offline touchpoint of mom and pop kiosks is multifold of the touchpoint of ATMs as well as bank branch of the whole Indonesian banking system. Through these mom and pop kiosks, we are able to participate in financial inclusion, providing financial services, providing digital goods, in addition to the physical goods that we supported through this mom and pop kiosk. What we have done is to modernize this mom and pop kiosk to be able to go beyond just basic physical goods reselling. So within those spaces, they can help you to top up your phone credits, bill payment, transport ticket purchase, even invest in digital gold investment. During COVID-19, our infrastructure of mom and pop kiosks has been actively utilized as a support system to distribution of donation and relief support to those impacted by COVID-19. Now, this infrastructure made already available in our platform, it allows global manufacturer, financial services from any digital service provider, either that be a global company and of course from Hong Kong, to address the demand of Indonesia to tap and penetrate into the Indonesian market. Thank you.
Thank you, Teddy. It's very exciting of your technology and e-commerce, etc. Actually, Hong Kong has a lot of applications doing use for the combating COVID-19. I would like to invite Mr. Peter Lam to talk a little bit about what Hong Kong TDC has been doing and will be doing for combating COVID-19 technology. Peter, please.
Thank you, Dennis. Well, we're working very closely with the Hong Kong SA governments to share the Hong Kong experience and technology solutions with countries which are our partners. This, of course, including tech products and solutions related to COVID-19, for example, testing, monitoring, contact tracing, and sanitizing. Beyond the medical field, we also offer a solution like e-health, e-education, e-business, and smart city management. We are also working with Indonesian Kadin, industry associations, and large companies to help them to source the product and solutions they're looking for among Hong Kong tech providers. The demand-driven approach helps both sides to be better prepared before the virtual business meetings and enhance the effectiveness of the business matching. We also have our online trade fair where Hong Kong tech companies and international companies can find relevant solutions and contact at the meetings. So far, we have lined up 76 virtual meetings for our tech promotion of buyers. When physical events and travel resume, we will continue using our trade fairs, conference admissions to facilitate business connections. Today's seminar is the launch of this promotion in Indonesia. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter and Teddy. I'm sure that with the Hong Kong TDC promotion, we can do more of entrepreneur discussions between the Hong Kong companies and also the Indonesian startups. So hopefully we have more cooperation in the future. The second question I want to ask goes to Shinter. You talk a lot about infrastructure, investment, and we have two professional organizations sitting next to me, FSDC in the finance services side and also the Law Society with Melissa. I'm just wondering, how can Hong Kong participate more in the infrastructure projects in Indonesia, and what are your suggestions, Shinta?
Thank you, Dennis. So as you know, many of our major infrastructure projects now use the scheme of the public-private partnership. So that's really actually the key to ensure that the burden and the risks to the infrastructure project development are shared fairly between the Indonesian government and investor. As you know, many of the issues of infrastructure project in Indonesia, such as land acquisition, for example, it really needs government support. So the current PPP scheme provides the technical support assistance, particularly in dealing with the such as the land clearance issue, business licenses, and project development licensing. But also, secondly, guarantee on the infrastructure development project. So this is done through what we call the PT Penjamin Infrastructure Indonesia, or it's a state-owned enterprise. They do give guarantee. And the third is the financing assistance in the form of viability gap fund, which practically government financial participation, typically converting part of construction costs. This is to improve the financial feasibility of the projects. And also, lastly, the fiscal incentive that I mentioned before, as far as the corporate tax holiday and tax allowance. I think what's important now is, I think it was mentioned before about business matching. In Kadin, as the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce Industry, we are the umbrella of all businesses in Indonesia, including sectoral association. So we have also set up what we call the business service desk, in which we really invite investors who want to look for local partners. A lot of these aspects, I think dealing with the Indonesian government, it's good to have local partners. So I would really like to encourage more of this partnership happening. And we've talked a lot about this, and we have also some success stories already that can be shared. But I think we need to encourage more. And I think with the market intelligence now that government is providing us, we are also much clearer in terms of what are the interests. So we need to be more concrete, and we are ready to provide. That's why we said even infrastructure project, we have already specific references to the projects that are available for investor to take a look at. So really now it's just the time to actually do it. I know with COVID many challenges, but I think we can continue working together to create more partnership.
Thank you, Shinta. And Lawrence and Melissa, can we just have your help on doing this matching, and so that our people in the audience can actually do the professional work in Indonesia? What are your thoughts?
I'll go first. Two things. One, look us up. Look up the Financial Services Development Council. We are on the web. We are on social media. Look us up. If you need help, if you need suggestions, or you just want to ask some general questions, contact us. That's the first. Second, let me answer or James' invitation earlier. James, I don't know whether you're aware. Actually, I think you are, because we're working together on this. Indonesia was going to be the first overseas trip that we were going to make last year. Unfortunately, things intervened. We haven't made a trip to anywhere else yet. So I'm hopeful that we will still do it. And it was actually for two reasons. One is because we want to build ties with an economy that we don't already have a lot of easy ties with. People like to say, oh, international finance, let's go to London, let's go to New York. But one forgets that even in this age of digital communication, instantaneous information, knowing the people and knowing the lay of the land and having a network is really important. So we wanted to build that network. Second, the second reason is, I want to let you in on a bit of a secret. The current minister in Hong Kong, the current Secretary for Financial Services, actually has family ties with Indonesia. Now that, I'd bring that out both lightheartedly, but also to show, James, it's not just you and I, it's not just business. Our business is going to build on a lot of personal connections that we already have. So with that, James, I'm going to take up your invitation, and we're going to go together.
Great. Melissa, you have any comment?
Just a point to add. Actually, like Hong Kong, the legal profession, like as I mentioned before, like we have 10,500 solicitors. And I think they specialize in different areas. And I think we can provide overall very good service. The important is how to finance. And actually, we do have like collaboration with the TDC, because like we do offer like sometimes we have a special desk so that we can offer some like free legal advice as well. And like I think like for people who are interested to come to Hong Kong. Hong Kong is a small place, and I think it's good to have like attend more like different kinds of seminars to meet people. In here, when you meet people, you share experience, and they share how they sort of work together. And I think a lot of people can refer you very good lawyers in Hong Kong. We are here, and you can just look for us.
Thank you, Melissa. I have 15 more questions to come, but I got the time limit right here. But I want to have a final comment from Dr. Choi, because Dr. Choi has made a lot of investment in ASEAN, including Indonesia. Now, during this difficult time, what is your advice, Dr. Choi, on expanding investment from the Hong Kong companies to ASEAN, especially Indonesia?
Okay, I would like to everybody know the situation today. The world has changed. I think the two consideration is, the first one is the COVID-19. The second one is the China-US conflict. Actually, so many Hong Kong and Chinese companies are thinking of relocation of factories from China into ASEAN countries, particularly Indonesia. But the point is, firstly, is the market. The demand is coming down. When you produce something, where can we get the market? The world has changed. It's not the same as before. And secondly, if you want to set up factories in Indonesia, so as one of the panelists mentioned already, you need a good partner. Good local partner is very important. But the point is, for your own management team, how can you get there? It's not easy for you to travel to Indonesia, even for the feasibility study or the operation or this. I just feel that at the moment, we have to think twice because the world has changed already.
Thank you, Dr. Choi, and thank you all the panelists. Actually, following this panel, we'll talk about factories, we'll talk about economic zones. So let me pass this back to Laura.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Yip, and for your very insightful discussions. Despite the epidemic, it is clear that there remains plenty of ways that Hong Kong and Indonesia can deepen our trade and economic partnership, as well as the people-to-people bond going forward. We will now have a quick glance on economic and trade cooperation zones in Indonesia. We would like to invite Mr. Liao Changzheng, Marketing Manager of China-Indonesia Economic and Trade Cooperation Zone, to give a presentation, please. Mr. Liao.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. This is the Marketing Manager Liao Changzheng from China-Indonesia Economic and Trade Cooperation Zone, or say KITIC. It is my great honor to introduce our cooperation zone at this online session. KITIC was established in 2008 by the state-owned enterprise, Guangxi State Farms Group, with total planning land area of 494 hectares. The first phase, 205 hectares, are already in operation. KITIC is the first Chinese state-level overseas economic and trade cooperation zone in Indonesia, which integrated with industrial manufacturing, warehousing, and trading business. Our industrial orientation, including food and beverage, automotive, logistic, construction material, machinery manufacturing, and electronic information industry. Until now, there are 55 tenants in KITIC, and more than 50% are Chinese investors, including China XD Electric Machinery, Mengniu Dairy, and other international companies like Fonterra from New Zealand, Schlumberger from USA, and Valmet from Finland are all in production. Our tenants in KITIC have realized the total investment with $1,200 million, created 4,000 jobs for local citizens, and contributed $100 million tax revenues for the Indonesian government. Kitik is located in the center of Jakarta-Bandung Economic Corridor, with 37 kilometers from Indonesian capital city, Jakarta, 60 kilometers from Soekarno-Hatta International Airport, and 50 kilometers from Tanjung Priok International Port. We provide tenants with world-class production facilities, convenient living support, and one-stop investment service. Here, company enjoys tax allowance, import duty exemptions, and direct construction investment policy from the Indonesian government, which enables investors to grow business in the most comfortable way. As for Hong Kong new entrepreneurships in Indonesia, we might have two investment suggestions for your consideration. Firstly, pay more attention to the long-term market change in Indonesia and take decisive action for potential opportunity. Secondly, always exchange experience with Chinese companies in Indonesia and achieve mutually beneficial cooperation. Hereby, on behalf of Kitik, I sincerely welcome all the entrepreneurs to investigate our cooperation zone for your future investment. Thanks to the government of Hong Kong Special Administrative Region and the Embassy of China in Indonesia for giving me this opportunity today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Liao. I will now invite Mr. Frank Sun, Vice President of CFLD International Karawang New Industry City, to introduce the industrial park, please. Mr. Sun.
Thank you, Laura. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished entrepreneurs friends, good afternoon. China Fortune Land Development is a world-leading developer of new industry city, has built over 80 projects around the world. 2015, in response to the Belt and Road Initiative, CFLD established the international business sector, registered overseas investment from Hong Kong. Until now, we already developed 4 industrial parks in Southeast Asia. Since 2016, CFLD has started investment in Indonesia. With the support from BKPM, we registered our local company in just 3 hours. The Indonesian government provides various services to support overseas talents, also deems CFLD as an international carrier to attracting foreign investment. In September 2016, Indonesia President Mr. Jokowi and 8 cabinet ministers attended the China-Indonesia Investment Summit, co-organized by CFLD and the Indonesia Chamber of Commerce in China. Mr. Jokowi made a keynote speech to the summit and highlights the CFLD Industry Park in Indonesia. Karawang New Industry City is located 47 kilometers east of Jakarta, in the center of Jakarta-Bandung Economic Corridor. Adjacent to highway and public road and 2 kilometers distance from high-speed railway Karawang Station. Surrounded by the Indonesia traditional manufacturing corridor, thousands of MNCs provide communist industry support. The Karawang New Industry City is planned to be constructed in 2 phases, covering land area of 500 hectares. Developed into industry cluster covering focus on the food and beverage, automotive and machinery, green building material, consumer electricities, and modern logistics. Karawang New Industry City is designed with the international master planner and architect. All the road network, water plant, sewage plant, dual power collection and gas pipeline networks, and other infrastructure facilities have completed with the international standard. Talents can purchase industrial land or leasing standard workshop to quickly start their production, and the workers' dormitory and shopping service area is also ready to service our talents. At present, 16 talents have already invested with local PT-PMA company registered in Karawang. And in June 2019, 8 enterprises start to construction. Karawang New Industry City is perfectly suitable for enterprise to quickly start operation of their overseas production base. It provides skilled workers with the cost advantage, and we can offering clear paramount private land ownership, and set up the service team to assist the entrepreneurs in permit application and also other construction management. Supported by CLIC, a rapid construction permit from Indonesian government, the fast process helped the talents to groundbreaking within 8 weeks from the PT-PMA company started registered in Indonesia. Currently, CFLD is working with the Indonesian government and professional consultants to provide one-stop service for entrepreneurs, including the company registration, worker visa, talent recruitment, BPOM and HALA certificate, application for bonded factory and tax reference, and help connected to the supply chain and sales channel in Indonesia. CFD also have professional team in Hong Kong, Beijing, Qingdao, Suzhou, Xiamen, and Guangzhou. Even during the COVID-19 pandemic, remote construction management service is realized by CFD Indonesia local team. We will fully support our talent investment in Indonesia. Welcome Hong Kong entrepreneurs to Indonesia, and welcome to Karawang. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sun. We're now going to start the Q&A session. I'm sure our audiences are very eager to learn even more from the speakers today. And we have already received some questions for the Q&A session. For those of you who have not yet submitted a question, please feel free to do so with the Q&A function. Commissioner Yip will moderate the Q&A session and select some questions for the speakers and panelists to answer. Now may I hand over the time to Commissioner Yip, please.
There are actually many questions to choose from. So the first one is kind of interesting because we just listened to Mr. Liu and Mr. Sun talking about economic zone. The first question is from Federation of Hong Kong Industries, the chairman, Mr. Dr. Daniel Yip. And actually, he's representing the FHKI organization with a lot of interest on setting up sites in Indonesia. He wants to ask, actually, there are a lot of difference in the business environment, like how to set up a 49% shareholding, how to look about tax issues, how to talk about local procedures. From the Indonesia side, is there a one-step solution, one platform that Hong Kong companies can look into that can find out all this information? I would like to pass the questions to Mr. Liu and Mr. Sun. I don't know who can answer that one.
Maybe I can, Mr. Liao.
Great, Mr. Liao.
Okay, thanks. I think this is a very practical question. Actually, the Indonesian government has set up the Investment Coordinating Board to accelerate foreign investment. And our cooperation zone also has close relationship with the board and some third parties to help investors realize one-stop solution. As for your three inquiries, usually, first of all, we will accompany the investor to the board, confirming about their shareholding structure. Then it only needs around 1 month to set up the company from registering to obtaining the business license. But the tax issue is quite complicated in Indonesia, so we highly recommend the investors directly contact with us for further results. Thank you.
And Mr. Sun, you have anything to add?
Yes, actually, from the Hong Kong entrepreneurs, I'm thinking the Hong Kong entrepreneurs are most familiar with the Southeast Asia's investment environment and the regulations. But for Indonesia, CFD Group and also our local partners, like professional consultant from the legal, from accounting, finance, and banking, they also can help the entrepreneurs. We can get the government support from the company registration. We can get the local consultant for the marketing analysis and the supply chain networking. And the CFD ourselves can provide the construction and also the on-site recruitment management. So we have very strong networking and a very strong service, this kind of partnership. So from CFD and also our partners, we are guaranteed we can support the foreign investor to set up their business frequency in Indonesia. Thanks.
So it sounds like the easiest way is just to enter your two sites, right?
Yes.
Then the answer
Yes,
is
actually.
solved.
Actually, I really prefer this kind of the international networking, like the Hong Kong government and also the Hong Kong KDC. Every year we have a lot of the networking events and also communications between the government and the professional partners. This is a very a good service platform for all the future investor and current our investment like the infrastructure providers like us.
Thank you. The next question, these are live questions, so I'm not going to read the whole name, but it's from Reza Prasto. I think it's from Indonesia. So these are live questions, not really planted. And this is a tough one, so I'm going to pass it to my boss, Secretary Yao. The economic is down for both Hong Kong and Indonesia. So what's the key for both countries in order to be strong again at this situation?
Oh, well, I think that's $1 million question. It's not just for government, but for all business people. I think the question and answers which we have gone through just now speak for itself. Certainly, I think there are a sense of hunger that people longing for knowing something. Apparently, well, all the speakers were immediate sort of expert that we are consulting. So, there is a sense of hunger. And secondly, I think, while we know each other a bit, but as Lawrence mentioned, there's still a lot of things that we don't know and still a lot of scope. So there is still a lot of curiosity there. But I think more importantly, among all these sort of factors, is the imminence that we are, as the questioner sort of posed the question, we are in deep trouble, not just individually, but globally. I think that imminence drives people, both government and business sector, both individual economy and the regional economy, to work on something. Now, for instance, we have now had the Hong Kong ASEAN sort of FTA, Indonesia included, and since July 4th, it's put into force. But does it mean that's the end of the bilateral relations? I would rather say that's just the beginning, and that provides a platform for two governments to sort of bring it to the next new height. And perhaps to fill in that gap is the constant hunger, the curiosity, and the imminence pressing our respective government to work closer with the business sector. Because, well, what fill in this bilateral relations? What will be the future ingredient in, for instance, taking the FTA a step further? Must be supported by questions and sort of aspiration by the businessmen. So my answer to that question.
Thank you, Secretary Yao. Another question from Indonesia, from the greenenergyinternational.com. And the question is about what are the specific benefit and incentive for Hong Kong small and medium enterprises to do business in Indonesia? And in which sectors are the small and medium enterprises being encouraged to go to Indonesia to join the Indonesia companies? So I would like to pass this to the Indonesian side. I don't know if it is Shinta or James or Teddy who want to answer this one. How can Hong Kong SME go to participate in Indonesia business? Shinta, you want to take this?
Well, first of all, I have to say that, of course, Indonesian SMEs are being protected in the sense that a lot of the small, medium businesses are not, foreign SMEs are not allowed directly. So what's important is you need to create this, what I said, create the partnership. Of course, the definition of SME in Indonesia and in Hong Kong, of course, perhaps also differs. So we need to first understand, when we talk about SME companies in Hong Kong, what type of company, in what size of companies. But I have to say that Indonesia has recently opened, so we have no longer, with the omnibus, we'll no longer have what we call the negative investment list. So originally we have certain investments that are protected and closed. But with in the omnibus, we are opening up actually investment, and we're focusing on what we call priority lists. So you need to, perhaps some of your need to understand what are on the priority list and how can your SME take opportunity to invest in Indonesia. But I would really encourage this, what we call the partnership, because I think Indonesia SMEs is currently looking for many of support, especially when we talk about technology, innovation. This is something that definitely we can cooperate together. That's why I mentioned specifically on the services industry. I also would like to encourage you. I don't know how many of you understand what document is in the ASEAN Hong Kong FTA as well as the investment agreement. We mentioned many times, but I don't know how many businesses actually know what's inside. So this is really, we need to really understand, because a lot of these opportunities, things that we can pick up from those, that because we have this agreement, we may have special exceptions. So I would really encourage for us to really understand the document. I also want to just mention quickly about the BKPM role. Yes, they are there in Indonesia, there to support, of course, all facilities, all investment. But I also want to mention that Indonesia has also launched what we call the online single submission. And this is for the first time integrated all licensing online. So that will also help a lot of investors to fast track their licensing process. Thank you.
Great, great. And Teddy, your platform in Indonesia can also help the SME to do e-commerce, right?
Yes, correct. So our platform would allow for a seller to be connected with the vast majority of Indonesia, scattered beyond, not just in the metro area of Indonesia, but nationwide into even the top tier 2 and tier 3 cities.
I was told it's Alibaba of Indonesia. Hopefully you can be bigger than Alibaba still. Well, thank you very much. This concludes the Q&A session. I'll pass back to Laura.
Thank you so much all for actively participating in the Q&A session. Before our event draw to an end, we would like to invite Secretary Yao and Mr. Ricky Suhanda, the Consul General of Indonesia in Hong Kong, to close this webinar with a few words. Secretary Yao, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I think I will, instead of drawing any conclusion, I would take a continuation of the discussion which has been active and very passionate. To ride on our discussion just now, can I use Vice Minister Mahendra's sort of 3 points as a lead-in? I think he mentioned about how to intensify trade relations, how to explore new sector, and how to bring more incentive to the investor. I think those are pertinent points that we can address, and that can be the blueprint for our continuation of this dialogue. But let me be specific. Listening to the discussion now, I'm thinking perhaps there are 3 concrete steps, some long-term, some medium-term, some more or less immediate steps we can take forward. Now, the first one, Shinta mentioned that, well, while doing business, not many people, both in Indonesia or sometimes in Hong Kong, knows every single word, every single sentence of the FTA. Yes, that would require a lot of promotion and elaboration. But the Hong Kong-ASEAN FTA is one which is designed to bridge between Hong Kong and the 10 countries in ASEAN. If there are sufficient hunger, curiosity, and imminence, why not have a FTA between Hong Kong and Indonesia directly? That would be tailor-made for this bilateral relations. Now, Hong Kong has been a very picky, I would say, FTA partner, but in the last 3 years, we have doubled the number of TA we enter into and tripled the number of country and economy where Hong Kong has established this FTA. And building beyond the Hong Kong-ASEAN FTA, if there are sufficient sort of a business interest, no reason why we can embark on this. Now, of course, this would be a long shot. So bear that in mind as my sort of response to the Vice Minister's call for intensifying the trade relations. The second point is for businessmen, they must find a platform. And I think there is an almost immediate platform available in a few months' time, which is the Belt and Road Summit, which will be rolling out for the 6th time, hosted by the TDC in Hong Kong. Well, we don't know whether the pandemic will allow us to meet physically, but that is a platform, be it on webinar, could be the platform where we can work closer. And I think to the envy of many other ASEAN countries, in fact, this year we have identified Indonesia as our key partner. That's why the Chief Executive has extended an invitation to your President to be our keynote speaker or some of his senior ministers. So this remains a standing invitation to Indonesia where we can fully explore and exploit the Belt and Road Summit seminar to be held later in this year. Last but not the least is I mentioned about the 4th point that, well, we can be our respective gateway into our economic hinterland. In Indonesia's case, it's the entire ASEAN on top of your own population, own economy. Now, I think the best formula, as we have seen today, is not just working between governments, but rather bring the tripartite relationship, bring the business on side, bring the chambers on side, bring the trade facilitator like TDC and your counterparts along. That together we can bring a better platform. So I think these are the fruit that I have gathered through the discussion, and I'll take it from there. And hopefully, well, next time when we meet, either physically or through webinar meeting on a more frequent basis, we can sort of capture on those as a stepping stone for even closer relationship and better prosperity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Secretary Yao. May I now invite Mr. Ricky Suhanda, please. Consul General, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ms. Moderator. Honorable Mr. Edward Yao, Secretary for Commerce and Economic Development of Hong Kong. My friend Dennis Yip, Commissioner of Belt and Road Hong Kong. And distinguished panelists and participants, very good afternoon. First of all, I would like to thank and express my sincere appreciation to the government of Hong Kong and also Belt and Road Office in Hong Kong, our co-organizer, for making this event possible. And indeed, it is an honor for me to deliver the closing remarks of a very important webinar today. And I really enjoy and learn insightful deliberation of our panelists. It's very prominent from Hong Kong and Indonesia, and exchanges of views during the question and answer session. I'm delighted to see the enthusiasm and spirit shown, which convinced me that strong commitments to bolster partnership between Indonesia and Hong Kong and also China do not only come from governments, but also from business sectors. If take a look or maybe aware about the economic relations between Indonesia and Hong Kong prior to the current global pandemic, is very steadily, especially in this 70 years our bilateral relations. However, the COVID-19 pandemic has caused economic turbulences. But I took note of various important suggestions from the panelists to overcome such a problem. So, distinguished participants, please allow me to give some emphasis on the 3 points of our webinar today. Firstly, it is indefensible, I think, that Indonesia and Hong Kong, as well as China, have a strong fundamental relations in diplomacy and economy. Some says that friend in need is a friend indeed. So I found that through with relations between our two nations, especially in this challenging time, and our good modalities in regional and multilateral forums like ASEAN, Hong Kong Free Trade Area, like mentioned before, should enable us to capitalize and reinforce our economic, trade, and investment cooperation. And if we consider the shifting of global economic growth to our region, that should make us in the driving seat. I understand that current situation has given us a further push to increase cooperation between nations because this kind of arduous time will be easier to pass with the good friends. So not only do we need intensification, but also diversification of cooperation, especially in technological, e-commerce, and startup fronts. If we take a look at the data in the first half of 2020, in many parts of the globe, we have seen that technology-related companies have taken the benefit in gaining capitals and revenue. For example, in Indonesia, e-commerce sales in the first 4 months increased up to 26%, with the value almost 2.4 billion US dollars compared to last year record. So such increase was coupled with more than 50% hike of transaction from consumers who purchase from e-commerce platform for the first time. So in this regard, I welcome the expansion plan from Bukalapak company. Secondly, the pandemic situation due to COVID-19 outbreak has forced us to adapt to the new normal and to come up with solutions which rely quite significantly on technology. Never did I imagine to live in this type of situation, but yet life must go on. So exactly like what we are doing now, webinar has been greatly used as important mean of communication. Since the past decade, the urgency come up with the vaccine has never been this great as COVID cases are now. Then I think more than 20 million victims. So it is really hope that the test runs smoothly in the near futures, and I hope can soon be properly address the COVID problem. And thirdly, as you know, similar to Hong Kong, Indonesia economy is outward looking and relies on the strong trade and investment relation with other economies. So I wish to encourage more business and investment in Indonesia. I know that some would say that it is like teaching fish how to swim to tell Hong Kong investor to come to Indonesia. But in the past few years, Hong Kong has always been the top 5 investor for Indonesia. And I really appreciate that. And I also sincerely welcome the initiative of Management of Economic and Trade Cooperation Zone. So I assure you that the government will always support the development of industrial park to engage with Hong Kong investors. So distinguished panelists and participants, before I conclude, I would like to reiterate the 3 main points of Excellency Mahendra Siregar mentioned, and also Mr. Edward Yao echoed before. That first is intensifying our trade cooperation, and second, exploring new sectors and taking benefit from untapped opportunities with private sector participation. And the third, I think, is the most also importance, that importance of making the most of offers from Indonesian government through many new incentives for foreign investors. And I also concur on what Mr. Lau said, the need for Indonesia and Hong Kong to serve as gate for future business relations. So finally, I wish to take this opportunity once again to express my highest appreciation to our main partners, Hong Kong government and Belt and Road Commission Office, and also for the prominent panelists for their shared thoughts, and also for sponsors that I can mention one by one for the kind support and cooperation which help making the webinar possible. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor General, for your kind words. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the webinar has now come to an end, and we surely hope that it has been a very fruitful afternoon for everyone. Thank you very much once again, all our distinguished guests, as well as our panelists, speakers for insights, and for all our participants. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's give a big hand. That's right. Goodbye and have a great day. Bye-bye.